Amazing. Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much for having me, guys. It's been an amazing and inspirational evening so far, and it's great to take part in this awesome event, and happy birthday, London National Park City. So my name is Elliot, and I absolutely love urban wildlife. I absolutely love telling people about urban wildlife, and I love the idea of rewilding. So what a talk to follow. Thanks, Sean. That was really good and inspirational stuff. But my quick talk here is to try and tell you how we can try and rethink and reimagine, rethink and rewild London. So one thing that every person on this planet suffers with, unfortunately, is a syndrome, and that syndrome is shifting baseline syndrome. And that means the moment we're born, the nature that is surrounding us during our childhood is a nature that we perceive as normal. And obviously we're being born into an environment now which is suffering massive ecological collapse, really degraded ecosystems with impoverished biodiversity. So we need to try and address this and try and realise what we've got is not normal, and we need to try and aim for better. So you just go to the next slide, please. So if we all jumped into a time machine and went back about 2,000 years, this is what London would look like. Massive swathes of marshes, and on our hills would be full of deciduous woodland. But rewilding is not all about looking back, it's about looking forward. So if you could just go to the next slide again, please. So the UN have said that in the UK, by 2030, 86.3% of our population are going to be living in urban environments. And by 2050, London might have a population that's as big as about 11 million people. So this is really, we're going to live in a very urbanized environment. And we have the power to shape our environment, to live in an environment that we think is healthy and a place that we want to live, and not a concrete jungle which doesn't support any life and harbors all sorts of difficulties. So rewilding, I think, is a real option for that. So we just pop to the next slide again, please. So the National Park City is absolutely amazing. London is a pioneering city with the world's first National Park City, which is incredible. If we went back to the 1871, that's when Wimbledon Common was given the first protective designation, and that is a protective designation that even predated the National Park City movement that John Muir did. So there's amazing. London has an incredible wealth of biodiversity, as been demonstrated this evening. We've also got an amazing wealth of pioneering thinkers who can shape London moving forward. So we've got a fantastic foundation to work from. Having 49.5% green space and thousands of species is a really good place to start from. So if you go to the next slide again, please. It's gone a bit weird there, but anyway, humans are all equipped with a fantastic organism, which is our brain, and we have the power to reimagine and do the most amazing things. And we have the power to knock our shifting baseline syndrome out the window and look forward to a more aspirational future where we can have a more wildlife-filled world that we can thrive alongside. And if you just go to the next slide, we also use our brains to think, and we know that we're in a massive ecological collapse. We know that climate breakdown is the biggest issue of our time, but nature can provide so many of these answers. The rather scary word ecosystem services is a really important thing that is building more and more momentum as we grow. So if we embrace nature, we can really build nature into our city and make our city more resilient, more future-proof for the challenges ahead, and make it a healthier, better place to live. And rewilding is that solution. So what does rewilding mean in a London context? And this is a lovely picture that I've stolen from the National Park City guys because I love it so much. But rewilding is a thing that means many things to many people. But to me, it means two things. One is reconnect people to nature, and one is trying to rewild our landscape. So imagine nature being this amazing complex puzzle. Over the last thousands of years, we've been pulling all these pieces out, and the puzzle is very much degraded. But rewilding in a rural sense might be very, very different to what it would mean in a urban sense. We're not asking to bring back wolves or anything in London. I don't think many people would want to see that. But what we can do, we do have fantastic large green spaces which can support more ecosystem processes and ecosystem functions, so we can learn from flagship projects like the Neff Estate, and we can try and introduce some of the learning that they've done there into our big green spaces by introducing herbivores and all sorts of ecosystem engineers, maybe even places in like beavers Berlin has beavers. I think we could have beavers too, and that could be, we've seen them being reintroduced across the country. Then you go down one more scale. If you look at our nature reserves, we can get our volunteers, and we've seen so many great volunteer activities this evening, but we can get our volunteers not to think like Victorian conservationists, but we can get them to think like animals. We can, when we go bramble bashing, we say you're not bramble bashing, you're being a wild boar for a day. When you're jumping in the river to put in deflectors, you're not being you're not being an engineer, you're being a beaver for a day. Or when you're doing coppicing, you could be one of these mighty aurochs that used to manage our woodland. So copy the sort of natural processes. And then you go down to the next level. I don't say any more than Sian's just said, but we can rewild our streets, we can change our mowing regimes, we can do these fantastic things to get nature into our living landscape. And then in the really urban settings, as this picture depicts amazingly, embracing these green infrastructure will just make our city a leader in the green industry and green revolution, and hopefully help set a precedent for how we can embrace nature moving forward. Thank you.